What's up, my Freedom fam? It is I, possibly your favorite libertarian, driving through a blizzard today to get you the exclusive on how holsters are made. Specifically, Klecker Tactical holsters made by Charles, the owner of Klecker Tactical. So stay tuned. We'll be zooming you right over to his shop in a couple seconds, but yeah, just figured I'd let you know what we're doing today. So enjoy. What's up, my Freedom fam? It is I, your favorite libertarian, here today with Charles of Klecker Tactical. Charles, thanks for having me in your shop today.
No, thanks for coming.
No problem. One question that I have before we get into the building of the holster and seeing that whole process is, what started you in the holster making business?
So it really started when I went to school at SDI for gunsmithing. And there was a course in the gunsmithing curriculum for making holsters. It was real short, probably only about a week long. They send you a build kit from Holstersmith, and you basically have to build a holster. It turned out looking like garbage, but it worked. And then I started making more for the rest of my guns, and my friends and family were like, hey, could you make us one? And then it just kind of grew from there. I was also a firearms instructor, so I was like, well, I can do CPL classes and holsters. They go hand in hand. Every new CPL holder needs a holster, so it kind of was tied into the business. And then I started doing gunsmithing, and I kind of dropped a lot of that and just stuck with holsters because it started picking up and kind of taking up a lot of my time. And
that one's hot enough.
And as we're getting prepped, my stuff's getting ready. But yeah, that's what got me into it, and it just kind of grew from there. About 2 years ago, I started my LLC and became officially a business, according to the state and the country. So that's why I started operating as Klecker Tactical LLC, and that's really what kind of got it started. It was just one small 1 week class. And then here we are with, 6 years later into making holsters.
A start to finish holster making process. We're going to show you everything that we can. And at the end, we will have a holster for the Glock 45 build that you'll be seeing on the series soon, or that you've already seen as you're watching this video. So let's get started.
All right, so to start with making any holster, first thing I'm going to do is, we're going to identify what gun it's going to be for. So today it's going to be for a Glock 45 with a TLR HPX is what we're doing. So that's a new one. I modified our TLR1 holster for a Glock 34. This is just the longer length. So I have an open end option, and then we modified it. This is a split. So this is what you see when you have split molds. We have other ones that are moth molds that are kind of fixed, so you don't have the flexibility you have with this. I can do any holster on the market with just these two pieces. So we'll start with the front side. We'll get that prepped. The next thing we're going to have is our color selection, which was the topo. So I got the right one there. So that is your topo that we're going to pick for the front side. We'll get this prepped on the board, and then we'll cut that down to the right size. For here, we've got our board, which is basically just a homemade little board with standoffs and holes cut through it so that the air can go through. And we are doing this in a right-handed. So, right. Yeah, right-handed. So this is going to be our outside here. And this is our retention plate. We'll put our retention plate on. And we'll simply just tape everything down so it doesn't shift or move on us. This is a pretty quick and easy one. If we were going old school with, let's say, foam, this would be a lot longer process to build this holster, but this is going to be a nice and easy one. So something that I do with everyone is, I call it a reholstering shelf, and essentially it's just a little bump out, so when you're going to reholster, it's not too tight on the gun, you have a little bit of extra room. So you'll see that's what this piece is for, and then that is going to be mounting for our hardware. And we're going to make sure that it's lined up, so that way we have our adjustment for our height. So everything should be right about there. We're going to tape it all down. So you see what I'm picking from is just a bin full of scrap little pieces of MDF plastic pieces. This is what I'm using for blocking. A lot of times when you see those holsters done, they take all the low spots and they're filling them up. And then I add additional blocking for the hardware. That way you don't have any snags or low spots that you don't want. I like to make sure that there's a nice smooth layer of tape, because When this is all heated up and said and done, you will see all those little imperfections. They'll show through on the inside. That's how much detail that holster will actually show when it's heated up to about 380 degrees and all the air is sucked out of the void. So that is ready to go. We will prep. This one's ready to prep just like that. We're not doing anything to the backside. So once this front one is done, we'll just slap that on with the retention plate, and that one's all set. And then I have the mag carrier. So this is something that I actually designed and 3D printed. So this is my sidecar mag mold. So it'll do both sides, front and back, all in the same one. And it's got all my indicators for drilling. I have had pretty good success with 3D printed molds. They just are a limited life, but it takes 4 hours and not a lot of money to print. So nice, useful tool is having a 3D printer in the shop. That being said, we're ready to go ahead and preheat our material. So I'm going to pop this piece here, which is our top piece. I'm going to cut it to fit the size with just minimal overhang, because this will have some shrinkage when it goes into the t-shirt press. So I'm going to preheat it. The reason I preheat it is because I can't get the ambient temperature and humidity perfect in here. And yeah, there's some science into this. This isn't just heat plastic up and form over it. If I have too much moisture in this, when it goes into the press and gets hot, it will bubble and it'll show, and it'll have a lot of imperfections. And it can also damage the image as well, and it won't look as good, and you'll have a rough finish. So in order to keep this smooth cell on the inside, I want to make sure that this has got all the heat drawn out. So I will usually preheat this inside there for about 5 minutes. That'll help dry it out and get it prepped, and then it goes in the t-shirt press with the right amount of pressure and heat for about 90 seconds, and it's ready to form. So we'll let that preheat, and then we'll get ready to form it. Making sure it's good there. Starting the vacuum, foam. There. Make sure I get a good seal, and then we just wait about 30 seconds for it to cool off, and then I'll hit it with some air and cool it down even quicker. But I use the neoprene foam. A lot of guys will just go, like I said, they'll go a bigger piece than their whole frame, and they'll use this frame. That's what actually pinches off the air. I got a little vacuum pump down there that's plumbed up to the base, and it's just sucking all the air out. I like this because it allows me to use just the minimum amount of piece of material that I need to get the job done, versus having, again, all that excess scrap that I don't need. So I usually let this sit here for about 30-40 seconds underneath pressure and let it kind of naturally cool down, making sure that I'm checking that it's getting in all the nooks and crannies, making sure I don't have any air pockets or bubbles. And then once I think it's about a good time, we go and grab our compressed air. You guys can see. Once kydex, Boltron, and this thermoplastic, once it gets to about 160 so degrees is when it starts to become malleable. So once I'm underneath that, then I know I'm good to take it off without deforming it. If I take it off too quick, then I will lose some definition and some shape, and we don't want that. That's why another reason why people will always recommend, if you have a kydex holster and you live in a hot state, if your temperatures outside can get over 110 degrees, inside the car can get over 130, 140, your holster can deform. So keep that in mind if you live in a hot state. So now you have your mag carrier sides. So those will be front and back. So now that we're all formed, and we have our outer shell, I'm going to draw on only one side, so that way I don't get confused and make the wrong cuts. So I'll go ahead and I'll grab a prop. Again, no mag. Everything's clear in here. There's actually, this side of the door, there's zero ammunition on this side of the shop for a reason. The only thing that you'll find ammunition-wise in here is snap caps, and that's not real ammo. There's no live ammunition allowed past that door. So everything's all cleared. We're good. I'm going to use this as my prop to line up to make sure that I have everything where I need it to be. So first thing I want to check is where my grip is going to be. I'm going to have a line there, and then where my optics relief cut, which is right here. Next, we'll kind of lay this over top, and I'm going to get my line that I need to draw, because this will get transferred onto the back piece, so I don't have to draw on the back piece. So I have the sweat guard line up, so this will come up to the back side. So now I don't need this anymore. Now I'm going to get my holes for my mounting hardware. I'm going to mark those. This will allow me to double check to make sure that all my heights, if I need to adjust all the height, are going to be in line with the top of the grip. So this is where the grip, where my fingers are going to be in the grip. So I want this to pretty much be aligned with that, or go a little higher, so that way you can have a deeper carry. It all depends on the preference of the user. I typically like to have it lined up perfectly with where this is, and that lines up with usually the top of the belt. So you have a nice soft drag of the top of the belt with your knuckles. So anytime I make a holster, I use my hands as the model, even though some people's hands might be bigger or smaller. So that's why I like these clips, and most of our clips that have adjustable height, so you can tailor it to yourself. Next, we're going to get our holes for our appendix claw, because this is going to be a sidecar, so it will be a dedicated appendix rig. So what that is, and we'll show it more in depth later, is the claw. This is the mod wing claw, and we'll show you how that works once we get it all completed. Drawn and marked. These are just kind of rough lines. They will get fine-tuned as we start cutting and buffing. I'm just getting really rough sketches of where I want to take bulk material off of this thing. This is going to be for where we stitch in the sidecar. Marking all our holes. Usually 4 is good. Since this is a 34, we don't need any of this material there. Or, sorry, it's a 45. Not to be confused with the Glock 20. I don't you just love the Glock designations for.
Great nomenclature.
So the mag carrier side, don't have to draw too much on this one, because this has got every indicator mark built into the mold, so I can drill all my points there. But I will, just so that way I know I have a reference of where everything's going to be. So I believe you should just draw very quickly. Again, very rough. Gives me an idea where everything is going to be. And that's pretty much what that'll look like. Now we'll be able to go over to the drill press, drill all of our holes, and then over to the bandsaw where we cut off all the bulk of the material. We got everything lined up and our marks are good. I have it clamped in here so that way it doesn't shift and move. And we've got that position where we need it to be. Now I'm just gonna line everything up and drill the holes. Pretty simple. Then we take a deburr tool. When you drill through, you'll get all these little rough edges, and those are no good. So we just clean them up. Pistol side for the sidecars always takes the longest time, because I don't have what's called a trim jig for every single option for this. For these, I do have trim jigs. It does make it a lot faster and easier to cut these and finish these. And because all the holes are already pre-marked on the mold. So this one I don't have to pre-draw on. Then it makes it much easier and faster. All right. So now all of our shells are deburred and drilled. All right, so now we're gonna combine both outer and back shell. We're using eyelets for that. So there's those holes right here that are gonna combine and attach the sidecar to our pistol. We put our eyelets in, and this is what's actually going to keep these two pieces together. So I'm going to put these on first before I trim, so that they're all aligned. Just a little bit of pressure, and now our sidecar is joined. so now we're going to sand everything down. Everything is rough cut. Now we're going to go ahead and get close to the finished product. We'll move from here over to the buffing where we're just going to smooth the edges. But this is where, with the sander and a Dremel, we're going to take this rough cut down to our final fit. So we'll have our gun again still cleared and emptied. We'll strike it out. I'm going to be using this to make sure that as I go along, I don't take off too much material. Once I get to a point, if I take off too much material, I got to trash it and we start all over again. So I take off a little bit at a time, making sure if I have to, I'll take little marks with a pencil. That way I don't take off any excess material. All right, so now that the bulk of that is done, now I'll go through with the Dremel, and this is going to finish and fine tune all the other stuff that I can't get with that. This is the crucial part here. I don't want to make sure I take off too much around the trigger guard area. Keeping in mind too, I'll pause that, is that anytime you have a light bearing holster, there is going to be a gap in the trigger guard. You can't escape it. It's going to be there. I can get my finger somewhat in there, but I'm not going to be able to get a full finger on the trigger. Foreign objects are not going to be able to get in there to pull the trigger, so it is still safe. I make sure that it is fully covered on the edges. You're going to still have that channel, especially when you have big barreled lights like the TLR1s and the Surefire X300s. This channel that it needs to be able to sit in there is going to be large. So I get that question all the time. It's like, hey, can you reduce that? I'm like, if you want the gun to fit, I can't reduce it. So, but we might make sure there's enough clearance for you to get a good grip too. Continue. So now we're at the buffing wheel. The buffing wheel here is going to take off no more material. It can if I do press too hard. This is going to smooth all that rough edges off. It's going to make it all smooth, and I'm going to make sure I'm constantly checking it to make sure that there's no sharp edges that are going to be against our body. So now we're going to be at the laser. This is just a small little diode LED laser, and we're going to laser the backside. We're going to mark it, and this is what my way of branding my holsters. So that way, if someone were to remove the belt clip that does have the logo on it, the holster itself, the shell, still has an identification that it came and was built from me. So this isn't the best laser in the world, but it definitely does what I need it to do. You'll see a lot of other manufacturers do what's called fiber lasering, and it's a lot cleaner of a process, but this still does really well. So I'll scooch over behind you, and we'll go ahead and plug in. I wonder how the camera is going to see this nice bright blue light.
Should I look directly at the lasers?
Yeah, for a very long extended period of time. So now you'll be able to see that it's just ever so slightly engraved into the back of the holster with the manufacturer, make and model, the light, and if it's right-handed or inside or outside. All right, so now we're at the final stage, which is the assembly stage. So I have all the hardware that I have laid out, ready to be assembled. First things first is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a microfiber cloth and I'm going to wipe down every surface on the inside and outside. This is also going to tell me if I did a good or bad job buffing. So this microfiber cloth really does, if it snags, that means I've got a sharp burr that I missed, and I'll go back to the buffing wheel and I'll readdress that. So we'll go ahead and buff everything real good. This also helps to clean up my finished edge. I'll also take some rem oil once we're all done, and we'll shine everything, make sure we get all the dust out. We don't want the dust in the holster acting like sandpaper against our gun. But for the majority part, we got everything out of that piece. Same thing for the mag side. So far, it looks like I did a good job buffing because I don't feel any snags that are concerning. Everything feels good. All right, so I'll start off with the pistol side. We're going to start off with our belt clip attachment. So we'll get the hardware needed for that. Ooh. Cut our length of, oops, bump that one, retention cord, which oddly enough, this is just windshield wiper tube. And you'd be surprised how many people in the industry use this. It's a lot more efficient for me as a manufacturer with doing custom work versus I can buy prefab, pre-cut ones that are a little bit denser, but they're denser, they're harder to work with. And I am limited to whatever size that they cut them to. Whereas doing it this way, I can get this fine-tuned for my retention. So I have a lot more flexibility in that department. But we'll drop these posts in. That looks good. Make sure that they're started. And get our drill. That's good there. Nice thing about using all of these clips is that they're also tuckable. So you can see there, if I wanted to get my shirt down behind here, you would still see this over the belt, but now I can tuck a shirt in behind it, which is one of the best features of this drop loop. And it allows you to really get this thing to carry really deep. Especially if you're carrying a bigger gun, sometimes it fits better the deeper you carry it. Because a lot of times it'll be top heavy, especially Glocks. A lot of the gun is kind of in the grip and rear. They like to roll outward. Now we're going to get to that claw that I had mentioned earlier. We'll show you what that actually does when we install it. What its purpose is. It's what makes this a dedicated appendix rig, is this claw. It can be removed, but the way that this is going to be carried, if you don't have this claw, a lot of other people are going to know that you're carrying a gun. And that we don't want that. So I will mention that this is one thing that I know me and a few other holster makers do that is different than a lot of people in the industry, is I use a clutch post. So the clutch post here has got little angled cuts and it grabs the material on the inside. So it keeps it from spinning and slipping. So I put those on the back side of the claw and I sandwich that down. So a lot of other companies, this will be your retention point. You're actually going to adjust your retention here. On ours, if you have a claw, the retention point is actually on the back. So these are going to be the screws that you're going to use to adjust your retention. Because now the way I did this with that sandwiched piece, that claw is solid and it's not going to shift. Over time, if this was also my retention, this claw moving back and forth would loosen this up and I'd be constantly adjusting my retention. That was one of the complaints we had a few years back, that holsters were coming loose. So another holster maker that I learned from had that little tip, and so far I've been doing it like that. Now the mag carrier side, we're going to install our MRD, which is a mag retention device. This is what we started using instead of using the traditional rubber washers for retention. This gives you more of a universal retention. So if I wanted to use this same design mag carrier, this is really what we use in our standalone mag carriers. I can switch between a SIG mag, Glock mag, M&P mag, CZ mag, and all I have to do is a small little adjustment on this MRD to adjust my retention. So I don't have to get a whole new mag carrier for a whole new mag. Okay, so now we'll need, two more here. We'll get our belt clip on the mag carrier side. Make sure that we get the same height. Yep. Now we get to stitch them together. We'll take our shot cord and our cord lock. And we use shot cord. Some other companies will use paracord. Paracord doesn't have any flex to it, if you've ever used paracord. So it doesn't give the same comfort and flexibility as shot cord will. This allows this to move with your body and then also return back. I want to make sure that it's nice and tight. And I always tie a security knot. And there you are. All right, so now we have our front and center sidecar fully completed, fully tuned. To Nate here, so we have all our retention set. We have the magazine retention set the way he wants it, the way he likes it. Everything's sitting just how he wants. We Loctited everything so nothing shifts over time. Then the key points that are moving a lot. So that's usually your belt clips and your retention. This stuff, even though the claw we have locked down, your retention screws still can loosen up over time, just from reholstering and unholstering. It's just going to happen. So everything is all fit. It's done. It's finished. It's to his liking, custom to order, and that is how it's made.
Well, Charles, I want to thank you again for having us out to see how everything's made.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it. If you guys are looking to get some holsters, can't recommend these guys enough. Use our discount code YourFave to save 10% off of anything on the site. And as always, thanks for watching. Stay free, and God bless. And just make sure you don't touch the side buttons.
I'm not touching nothing.
Don't touch it! You touch my drum set?
Pretty sure you touched my drum set.
Why are you all sweaty?
I happen to know cops doesn't start till 5.
It's watching cops. Oh, we're already recording. Cool. I didn't realize you were recording.
You'll have a spoof reel.
Bloopers.
What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah? Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're causing them wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're causing them wrong. Hey, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're causing them wrong. You got me like, oh yeah, I think that we've all had enough.
Thinking I'm